The What a Stranger Told Me podcast.
Check 1, 2, 1, 2.
Stranger things have happened.
Microphone. Confidence.
Don't talk to strangers. Let's do this.
You must have a million amazing stories.
I do.
And also times when when you're learning stuff all the time too.
Well, I'll tell you why I got into the line of work. I'm right into philosophy, a closet philosopher, in the sense that I've read all the great philosophers and amateurishly read all the religions to just kind of try to get a moral compass in my life. And the purpose of me selecting that job, in the moment, it was to keep my mind from collapsing from the tragedy of the marriage. But then it became a real study of fear and how to overcome fear. So I deliberately would put myself in the most outrageous situations, and it was never a problem getting in. It was always a problem. The name of the game was to get out, whether it was climbing into a rescue tunnel in the Haiti earthquake, where they're pulling out dead bodies and such. So I actually go into that tunnel.
Can you tell me about that?
Oh, it's a bit of a story.
Is it okay?
That's fine. That's fine. Although what's interesting was I was in the Solomon Islands working with the government, and I was prepping for my next assignment, which was I wanted to get into Syria during the civil war when it broke out. And so I was getting into hardcore fitness, running. And this kicks back to Haiti. Something, for whatever reason, I stopped dead in my tracks, and I realized that I was just crying streams, not tears, just like I've never encountered that before. And what I was having was a post-traumatic experience of Haiti. And it was then that I realized, okay, I need to back off this stuff and take on easier assignments like ecotourism development in Vietnam. But the Haiti story...
Are you okay to talk about that?
Yeah. And this is not diagnosed. This is just me trying to pinpoint what actually happened in that moment, where I'm getting flash images of Haiti that occurred 6 years prior. So that's why I label it post-trauma, because of how it impacted me, and it stopped me from going any further, like to Syria, for example. But the Haiti one was funny because I've flown in. On the first day, we're on a vista of a 5-star hotel that looks down over Port-au-Prince, and the entire hotel has collapsed. And they've put U.S. military on these big King Kong gates to block off anybody looting the hotel. And my NGO, which was a group of 4 real deal hotshot guys from Darfur and Somalia and stuff, on the first day I'm cooking bacon and eggs, and it's just the smell of death everywhere, and I thought, wow, what a contrast, but I got to eat in order to do my job. And the first assignment was to document what the rescue workers were doing. I think it was a Mexican team was allocated this time slot, so they're digging in this particular area, but they had left, but someone's still digging. Happens to be the CEO of the NGO, her husband. Okay, and it's like diving rules. You got to go. You can't just have one person in a tunnel, a snake tunnel. Anyway, so I go down to answer. I wonder if I'm claustrophobic or not. Well, I'm going to find out. So now I go in. Okay, so picture 10 feet, the hole. Picture the hole that's about that big. What's that, 2 feet across? And then over the top of it is literally a block the size of half that building there. And it's precariously hanging over that 2-foot hole.
30 metres wide.
Oh, it's well, that's maybe not 30, but certainly 20 by 20. It was just a massive block of cement from the collapsed building. And it was 45 degree over the hole. and it's starting to rain, as in lightly, but because the mound is, if it rains, the mound is susceptible to moving, because a lot of it's compressed now. It's turned to sand from when the hotel collapsed. So I see this guy who's now squatting down as low as he can go, and you have another cement block. I forgot the block. When I got into climbed into the hole, I had to stop for a moment and take this wild situation in of, if it moves 3 inches, I'm dead. So it was the first time I actually respected my mortality. So I've stopped getting it. I'm half in the hole, and I'm right here against the face of the rock, the block. I have to kiss it, and then I go into the hole. And this guy is squatted, and he's got a little tiny garden saw. I don't know what you call them. Right. And he's sawing rebar. So I squat in, and he's got a massive building block he's squeezed under to get to the rebar. And so I start photographing and chatting with him. And so, what's the deal? He goes, there's a dead body straight down here. And it's like, well, how can you tell? He goes, well, you follow the flies. And as if on cue, from a tiny little hole that was right beside him, a river of flies just beelined it to the opening and out. He goes, yep, it's right down there. How are we going with the time?
It's great.
So he's been cutting this rebar. It's like, and I can't remember how long, but it was a long time, like days. And he's only got through 2 of them. And it's like, well, how do you know? Okay, there's a dead body. And he goes, did you see the guy standing up on the cliff that's looking down at the collapsed hotel? He goes, his wife was in the shower, and he was talking to her on the phone, or she was in the bathroom, and she was talking to him on the phone when the earthquake hit, and then everything went dead. So he asked this particular worker to find his wife, and he said, I'm on it. So he was being reckless, being down there for a start by himself, let alone in the rain. So he goes, I know what floor she's in, and each floor had different coloration for the bathrooms, yellow tiles, blue tiles. So he had to dig down to the blue tiles. These guys had been doing that for 6 weeks, and he ended up being traumatized that day. He just disappeared for weeks, sitting in a tent, staring at a wall. And I've actually lived that on another assignment. I was interviewing child soldiers in Uganda, and these are very long interviews, and I traveled right to the north of the country, and I'm listening to the most horrendous stories of violence and brainwashing of children to become child soldiers that are slaughtering villages and the whole shebang. And after interviewing 6 of them over 2 or 3 days, I ended up staring at a wall for 2 days, because and I warned everybody, even the people I was interviewing, in order for me to be effective on this assignment, I need to hear the nitty-gritty of the most evil shit that you guys have done. So the story began, an absolutely wild story. So the point being that these guys, what these humanitarian workers do is off the chart, and the psychological repercussions can be devastating.
Tell me about the finish off. No, that's right. What happened in the hole?
Oh well, he keeps sawing away, and I go deeper into the hole. And you got to imagine it is a snake hole, and it's got massive pylons, and you've got blood everywhere, and you got shoes and photos and all of this stuff. It was about, I'm kind of guessing because the memory is not too good, I'm about 30 to 50 meters inwards. There was a massive cavern within the ruins that opened up that they were pulling the dead bodies out from. But what was fun and games is when I smash my headlamp and I'm about 20 meters in, and that entailed crawling under massive pylons, and you can only move on your elbows. And suddenly I've got no flashlight, headlamp. Okay, so now I'm in pitch black, and it's like, and I can't turn around. What do you think I did?
I'm wondering, because you seem to be very sort of emotionally strong. So what was the feeling? What happened?
When I said to you at the start, I asked myself, am I claustrophobic? I really didn't know. So this is, again, gets back to the philosophy or the study of fear. So I had no choice but to go in. I had to know if I had claustrophobia. And then I get stuck, 20 meters down a tunnel. And then that becomes a real mind game. And I thought, oh, look, no drama, you're good. You're going to just have to go straight back out the way you came in. But I used the camera flash. So then you're looking at a classic horror movie scene where every 5 seconds or so I let off the camera flash, and it just lights up for a second, and then you're in pitch black. And then when I finally got back out, I disappeared over the mound to have a private moment for about 10 or 15 minutes. I'm suspecting that I was somewhat traumatized by this experience, and after 15 minutes it was, well, back to work, because he can't be in there by himself. So I was about to go back in, and unfortunately he came out, and then he disappeared for weeks, just like hiding in his tent, because it was as if his mind just suddenly split. And he just started living the trauma of everything that these guys, let alone Haiti, these guys had seen the worst of the worst. So sooner or later, this shit's got to kick back in. That's why it took 6 years for me with the post-trauma of Haiti. And that's just bodies everywhere, and the whole being in a riot, because the UN's response to it was an absolute disaster. Yep.
I was going to say, I won't keep you for too much longer.
Good,
you've
mate.
got a day. A last question, and I'll let you do your thing. Are you retired now?
I am.
And you're living away from the areas that were sort of, sounded like, in a way, it was like an addiction to you to be in these.
No, I just devoted very, very seriously. Look, everybody. I was just devoted to studying fear. So I had no intentions of stopping or retiring or anything. I was the happiest guy living the dream, where I could fly anywhere in the world and work with NGOs. And so I just turned 60. So I'm thinking, I'll keep doing this till I'm 75 or so, because it was just an amazing life. But I couldn't get out, and so I was just confronted with, and I happened to meet the love of my life, and I asked my daughter, I said, I've met the love of my life here in this miserable situation of COVID. What do? Do I stay and start again, or do I go back to the dream life? And I was testing my daughter, because she'd always been raised on the philosophy of you live for the love. If you build a life, a foundation of love as the starting point, well, then you're ready to achieve anything. And she said, you got to stay and live the love. I went, yeah, okay, there it is. So suddenly I'm in Perigian Beach in suburbia, and my God, is that warfare all around, mate. It's like every man for himself. I'm the only guy on the street going, oh, the music's too loud, and I realized, and it took a while, it was quite a culture shock, that in the suburbia, it's every man for themselves. So they don't care if they annoy you, but damn, they care if you annoy them, right? So I've been trying to transition into this new lifestyle, and it's a very dramatic change. That's why I got him. And somebody actually asked me, this is a dog that's 80 kilograms and 6'3", and somebody asked, why would you get a dog like that? And you know how you act without really thinking, you're just inclined to do so. Well, upon reflecting, I thought, well, it kind of makes sense, because I just need extreme challenges, and that's not boasting or arrogance. It's just how I chose to live life. I was compelled to live really extreme stuff, like the extreme sports. You know, I look at them in total awe of the strength of them mentally to do this stuff. But if you asked one of them to do what I did, they'd look at it the same way, going, not a hope in hell.
But here you are, you're happy.
I am. The transitioning into suburbia is still going on. And we have a beautiful place, and it's got a stunning view of the shoreline and the love of my life and such. But it's just, I don't know, getting accustomed to how spoiled people are here and how rude they are and judgmental again, because I've been out in the country.
Thanks for listening, and don't be a stranger.
If you've got a story you'd love the world to hear, then call us on 0489 272 286.
Also, if you'd like us to chat to strangers in your town, or maybe you've got a conference you'd like a podcast from,
Then contact us at whatastrangertoldme.com.
What a Stranger Told Me is made by Tim Reid and Jon Coghill.
Music supervision by Dennis Folletto.
Photography by Andy McCall and Will Reid.
See ya.